Hey everyone. Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at how to make this to make a house, a 3D stylized house in Blender. Maybe we look at some texturing and other things. Yeah, so if you are not here yesterday, so yesterday we created, let me see if I can get that. Let me see. Hello, Hatshit Chawula. How are you doing? How is everything? Yeah, so I wanted to first show you what we did yesterday, and let me see if I can get that. Yeah, so this is what we did. We did a subway station. Hello, CG Monkey. How are you doing? Yeah, so we did a kind of a flooded subway yesterday. And you can see what we managed to achieve. Yeah, so today we are going to be trying something different, but the live stream or the video for yesterday's live stream is already up if you want to watch that. So let's get to what we are here for, which is just creating a cartoon, like a stylized cartoon house. I have a few reference images here that I'm getting off at station. Hello, Fires Creations. How are you doing? How is everything? Hello, Anna Ajana Joe. How are you doing? Great to see you back. It's amazing. So yeah, let's see what we can do here, and I guess we can just start right away and jump into it. I'm going to set up my camera. Actually, this setup is okay. I'm just going to start with a basic ground and maybe give it a today we're going to be using cycles because I think cycles has a better features and kind of renders better than Eevee when it comes to things like this. And maybe we'll try to switch between the two render engines and see which one gives us a better view. How long is this video top channel? I'm not sure. It will depend on what we manage to achieve. So hello Rizo AR, how are you doing? Glad to see you back. So let me turn on my screen keys, the shortcuts, and then I'll start by kind of just blocking out the scene, seeing what kind of shape I want to go for. I'm also going to change my focal length to something like 25, and maybe use this time, because we're using cycles, I use a sky element. I think I can stick with the Nitish something, and then I'm going to give this a slight elevation so that we get a bluish sun. Let me see. Okay, 50. Let me see from this. By the way, do you know about the Gogo renderer? I mean Gogo Collab. Gogo Collab. I'm not sure I've heard of that. What is that exactly? Because I don't think I've heard of it. Is it a render engine or a render farm for Gogo? Okay, I think it's the altitude that will give us a bluish sky. Sometimes you have to play with values to get the look you want. Let me try. I'm trying to first set up. Let me see. Okay, so the maximum is that. Oh, I think you have to play with the air if you want to get a bluish look. I think it's these settings here. That's enough. for what we want. So let's go back to the camera. And actually, before I do that, let me just use basic nodes. I'll just start with an area light. Why do you set up your camera so early? Don't you feel limited? The camera position is so oppressive. It helps me just focus on one position, because if I don't set up my camera early, then I may end up adding details where the camera is not going to see. So it just gives me a good understanding of what to focus on, mostly what areas to focus on, other than just randomly focusing on different areas. So yeah, you have limited time most of the time, so you want to spend that time where you want to spend the time on where the final image is going to be focused on. That's why you see I set up my camera really early, just so that I can have a focus point. So how do you do it? Do you work randomly in different locations? Because I think, yeah, that will be overwhelming for me. We can render animations and images from Google, and it's free. Let me try checking that. You say it's Google Collab? Google Collab? Because that's my first time to hear about it. That would destroy render farms. So you just welcome to Google Collab. I guess I'll check it out later and see, because I think there is a lot of things to read about here, but that would be very interesting. Okay, makes sense. I do a lot of game assets, so everything needs to look good. Yeah. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to see if I miss any messages. We need to code some things. I suggest you watch a YouTube video. Okay. So yeah, I looked at it. I think you have to set up some stuff. Okay, so let's get in and get started. So I wanted to first block this and just get the shape, the basic shape of my house. We're going to go for a more stylized look. So the shapes are not going to kind of mimic our real world shapes. Are just going to be a bit exaggerated. So that's what I'm doing here. And I have a few reference images on my second screen, which is just this page here, like this page here. So we can actually, maybe to make it easier for you guys, I'm just going to have this on the side so that we have plenty of reference images to look at. I'm just going to scale this down a bit. Let me just do something like this and bring that. Bring this like that. So this is going to be our light. I want the light to be a bit soft. Let me also turn on denoising, viewport denoising. Perfect. I'm going to increase the scale of my light so that I get some nice soft shadows. And also, I don't want the back side to be that dark, so I'm just going to add a fill light at the back here. Just bring it up a bit so that I'll get some nice soft shadows. Maybe bring in my camera a bit. Something like that. And if you're render slow, if you turn on viewport denoising and you see that navigating you're seeing while it is rendering becomes a bit slow, you can change your start samples to 10 so that the denoising kicks in after 10 samples instead of starting at 1, which kind of slows down your viewport. Hello 3D Design, how are you doing? Glad to see you back. So let's just grab these pieces and I'm just going to drag them back. And I know what, just so we a bit fast, I'm going to use EV, and then when it comes to lighting, we can go back to cycles. I'm just going to go to this. So let me switch to cycles and then just switch to EV here. why does Google Colab can't render my downloaded texture? Yes, I think I have to check that out, and because it seems very interesting that Google has a render engine, a render farm that is free. So this is going to be a little bluish for the fill light. This can be kind of sunny and maybe rotated a bit this side. Let's try using an actual sun and see. Okay, maybe the area light would be much better. Let's try 500. So this is what we have so far. Now we can start adding in a few details, maybe even start giving this a few texturing. Actually, let me do the texturing in cycles because it has more, as I said, it has more features. And just to make this a little bit smooth, I'm going to use a bevel modifier, and so the edges are a bit rounded. And let me just auto smooth, and then harden normals to have something like this. So for the texturing, what we're going to do, let me zoom in a bit here. What I want to use is an input geometry node, and I want to use the pointness node, so I'll move to that. And this only works in cycles, so if you are not using cycles, it won't work. I just want to get the edge vertices. I guess we need a few subdivisions, so let me try to add a few segments in here. Let me make sure I'm in the pointness node. Let me apply the scale. I can add a convert math node here. Just see. You can see what I wanted to go for is that sharp edge. Let me increase my bevel a bit, maybe because I want to create some kind of a mask for that area there. And can also add a subdivision surface, and this will just give us more resolution to work with. If I put it up, then I'm going to have a few issues like that. I want it to be below the bevel, and can grab this because we are going for a more stylized look, and maybe just drag this down a bit, have this kind of bend in like that. And let me see. I'm trying to see if whether using a bevel modifier is better than just adding in actual geometry. Hello, addons. Das, how are you doing? So this is going to be used as the color for the geometry or for our shader for the walls here. So I can add a color mix RGB, use this as a factor, and then maybe have a kind of a brownish color, something like that, and then a lighter color of the same. Maybe see, maybe make this a bit darker like that. That's going to go into the base color. This is going to have to be a bit rough. Maybe this should be a bit brighter, maybe a bit washed out. Now we can make this more like that. Internal wireframe. Now we can add some wood element like you see here. So I'm just going to make some wood here. Just grab this. So we're also going to be using some procedural textures. I think I can add a bevel to this as well. Auto smooth, and then harden normals, and then give it the same treatment. So now what this would enable me is just to kind of exaggerate the shapes a bit here. And I can give this the same material. Let me call this wall. Duplicate that material and call this wood. Now for the wood material, we can try using a procedural material. Hello from India, how are you, etc? So how is everyone? If you're just getting here. Okay, so we're going to create some modded material, but let's try using procedural materials here. Will you make those procedural textures or have them made already? I want to try using procedural materials for this. So let's do that. So for the procedural materials, okay, I've just opened Photoshop for no reason. Let's start with, I think we can start with a wave. Let's close Photoshop here for a second. I can see what we get. Maybe let's isolate this for a second so that it's a bit faster for us. We can even just use, problem is if it is a bit slow, so can do something like that. And we can use a texture, noise texture, and use it to scale up for the vector, and that should distort the noise a bit, which will give us a more kind of a wooden look. And to stretch noise, wood is always has these stretched details, so that's what we want to go for. Fire in the sky, burning trap. Hello all, just finished a sci-fi track in Blender. It took 3 days. That's amazing. That's amazing. You can share some of your work on Discord. Let me see if I can get the link. Copy link. Is it that? I want to see if you can paste your link. You can share some of your work on the Discord channel there. Can you help to make a game asset for Unity? I think Unity can import FBX, so you can create the game assets directly in Blender. What makes a game asset, I guess, is that I usually it's recommended I use baked textures if you want the materials to look the same. Hello, Cronion 9. So I want these to be stretched a bit, maybe on this Y. Okay, let's use UV coordinate mapping so that it's easy for us to kind of direct the direction of those noise details. So I'm going to unwrap this and I use UV coordinate mapping. And let me first look at my UVs here. So this is what I have, and you can see now we can stretch this in one direction. Let's try in the X direction. Let's try Y direction. You can be as detailed as you want, but usually with Terrorize, you don't want to have too much detail. So I'm just going to increase the scale of the noise or decrease the scale of the noise, so we don't have too much information in there. So let me bring this back. I don't know to work, please teach me. You don't know to work? I'm not sure what I get what you mean there. So then we're going to use you're going to use this for the color, and wood texture usually going to make it a little bit brown, maybe a darker brown a bit, something like that, maybe a bit reddish. This shouldn't be that dark. You can have it somewhere there, and we have simple wood texture, and we also want this to be blended with this. So if we look closely, we have, okay, it doesn't seem that let me first bring the bevel somewhere there. So this is our pole. We want to have kind of washed out edges, so that's why you see that I have this That's why you see that I have this pointness in there. And, it can be a bit hard to get the right pointness. Maybe another thing you can check is your normals to make sure that your normals are facing the correct direction. See, okay. Yeah. So I was looking at the alpha instead of the. So I want some washed out edges like that. Maybe make them more pronounced like that. And I guess I can even add another math node here, which we can add to power. One video product modeling tutorial in Blender. I've had a lot of suggestions of doing something like that. So that's something I want to do, but I want to first get something interesting to work on to make as a product. Let's see if we use multiply. Just want to get some good contrast from this. Actually, something like that might work. Maybe not too washed out like that. So let's come back here. Let's go into something like that. Maybe make this a little bit. And then all we have to do is just use this as the factor here, and you see what we get. But we are lacking a lot of detail in this, so we can try having this. Actually, should we do that? So we can, in theory, let me blend this a few times. So you can control how much detail we get from that. So that's going to be our wood, and we can even use this noise here for the bump. So I can use a vector, then connect this to the normal. Just bring the that down a bit, and maybe increase the roughness a bit. And for the color here, I don't want it to be too pronounced, so I'm also going to get another mix node here and just, if I choose to make it a bit different, something like that, maybe have this like that. Now we can use a mirror now, a mirror modifier to kind of mirror this on the other side, and maybe have a copy of this on the other side like that. This is going to be a little bit shorter. Hello Salim Lakade. Hey, will you save this? Yes, it will be saved later. All my streams are saved. So for you, because I understand that some of you don't really have the time to stick around for 2 hours. So the live streams are always available to watch later if you want to watch them later. So this is where we are, and I think I like the contrast that we're getting from this. So I'm just going to grab this up to here, copy that, and replace it or paste it in here, so that we can use that as the new contrast for this. We can just make this more brighter. Let me see what we're getting. So this is you're welcome, man, you're welcome. Just make this a bit more contrasted. You always have to go back and change these nodes a bit for new objects. Something like that. Maybe yes, let's try to go back. If I increase this to something like 3, or if I have it at 1 or 2, we get a more soft look, which I think is better. And I need this to be maybe a little bit darker, like that, maybe somewhere like that. Where are you from? I'm from Uganda. That's in East Africa. And then we can maybe add in something like this. I'm just going to use a cube, just borrow the same modifiers, are the same, and the same materials, controlling materials. And I just get this on here, and I can even just do something like that. Let me increase the light from this lamp here. Let's try making it. Let's try bringing back the sky. This can be something like 10 just for the fill light. I'm going to reduce this a bit, bring the elevation a bit down, so we get that kind of warm look. Now maybe change the rotation at something like 90. That should give us, actually let me bring back the elevation to something like 45, so we can see the direction of the sun. Let's try 35. Then the rotation should, let's try 45 or 30. Let's try 60, like that. And the shadows are a bit too harsh, so if you want to change the shadows to be a little bit softer, I can go into the sun size and give it a larger angle, and I should have some kind of softer shadows. Let me go back. Let me first hide these lights and see how they're not really adding much to the scene. I'm just going to reduce the strength, the sun intensity to something like 0.5. Let's try 0.1. Yeah, let's try 0.05. Let's try 0.1, 0.5, somewhere like that. Now everything looks a bit bright because we haven't really added a lot of materials. So let's see what we can do about that. I'm just going to duplicate this also on the other side. Maybe we need to make this a bit taller, so I'm just going to select everything here, go to edit mode, and just drag up a bit, and maybe scale from the center here, cursor selected, scale it a bit, maybe reposition my camera a bit. We can start to work on the roof shingles, or roof, yeah, just the roof, by adding in a few tiles. I'm going to make the roof a little bit bluish. I want it to have the same material like this. So it's I'm just going to shape these a little bit. Take this let's see, just drag this up, add in a few edges, can add a loop there, drag that up, round it off just a bit. Let's try to shade smooth, and we're going to give this solidify modifier, and we can only use that only rim. I also want this to be bent a little bit for the stylish, to give it this stylish look. Hello Walker, how are you doing? And we also need a bevel, apply scale, and also auto smooth this shader. I can see how our shingles are going to look. I just going to adjust the nodes a little bit. Let me call this roof, and we can start. We can also add a subdivision surface just so we can have a more contrasted edge. I like that. Just increase the height of this a bit, and we can go into the UV editor, rotate this so that these lines are crossing like that. And now we can play with the colors a bit to get a different look, and I want these lines to be not too visible, so I want kind of a bluish look for this, maybe a bit bluish like that, maybe a bit darker like that. We can change this to color so that it kind of, and maybe this too, we can make it a little bit bluish. And actually I don't want the color to be too pronounced, but I think this is going to be okay for now. So now we can bring this in, and we can use hello films Mugir. Sorry, I'm butchering your name, but hello. Yeah, so we're going to use the array to kind of create to duplicate this, to create some nice roof tiles, and you can see how they're going to lay over one another. And we can also use this setup here to be our roughness, so that we have some difference in roughness. It might be a bit refractive, so we can use a convert math node, or just a mix RGB to control the roughness a bit. And I can use another array on the X, on the Y. Sorry, on the Y. So we can have this repeated, can make them a little bit smaller. And I want this to be actually something like this. I'm going to apply the rotation of this, and we can go back to this and just increase the count and just rotate it. Now we also want it to conform to this, to the shape of our roof. So we can use something like we can actually just use a plane like this, give it a few subdivisions, and in the render, let me first clear the rotation of this so that it's super straight like this. Then in the viewport display, if I go to here, visibility, I can change this to wireframe so that we're just seeing the wire, and select this roof. Hello Serini, how are you doing? Give this what is it called, a mesh deformer, not a simple deformer, but a mesh or surface deformer let's select this as our surface and then hit bind. And what that will enable us to do is then we can go into edit mode and just have these kind of bend like that, bend them in any shape we want, depending on yeah, that. So I'm just going to grab this. Hello Imperial, how are you doing? So I'm just going to rotate this a little bit like so. And in the render settings for this, we can or in the visibility, we can turn off our camera and shadows. We can basically turn off everything here so that we don't get to render this the mesh itself, but we render only the. So I'm just going to select these, turn on proportional editing, and kind of make them follow the shape of the roof. I'll do it here as well. So this is a little curved in like that. I learned a lot by watching your videos. Now this is kind of stylized art. Is really helpful to learn a new style. Will you make more videos on this type of stylized art? Yeah, I guess I will if there is more interest. I usually just choose random topics and hopefully you guys like them. So we have our roof like that, and I think I'm just going to go to the materials a bit and scale this the roof tiles a bit, maybe just so we don't get too much tiling, something like that. And we can mirror this on the other side. Mirror on the other side, we can just use this as the mirror object, and we have something like that. And while we are at it, we can start adding in more detail. So this material here still looks a bit too plain for me. What I can do is just come in and actually, since we are not seeing the edges of this material, then this shader is not really doing much for us, so I can get rid of it up to here. And what I can do is use an ambient occlusion node. Let me just preview that for a second. Increase the distance. Okay, so it doesn't seem like I'm seeing much here. Am I in cycles? Okay, Blender has, yeah, it's not responding. So let me just close it for a second and see. Yeah, so how have you been, guys? And where are you watching from? I want to see if we have some new viewers from different countries or different states, different places. It's always fun to see people from new countries. Let me just go back to this. And okay, Canada. I think, are you the first person I've seen from Canada? Rafed? I think so. How is Canada? I would love one of your live stream about beginners common mistake or something like that. The easy thing to do that, because sometimes we beginners get frustrated a lot for easy or basic stuff. So okay, Blender, I'm not sure why it's becoming stubborn now. Let me try again. Yeah, I think, what kind of common mistakes do beginners make? I can't remember any, because it's been a while since I was learning Blender, since I was a beginner in Blender. So Mexico, nice. cold is very it's very cold there, so you are in winter, I guess. Hey, thank you for subscribing. If you're new, it would be amazing to subscribe as well. So let me see. For some reason Blender is crashing when I switch to cycles. Let me first go back to GPU and see. So that's GPU. If I switch back to CPU, okay, I'm not sure what's happening, but let me turn off the denoising and see if that will fix it. Maybe it's my memory. Everything seems normal. So we are going to work in, we're just going to work with GPU, CPU, so because for some reason GPU has stopped working. Maybe it's doing that calculating thing, which I don't understand why it would be doing that again. And let me just switch back to GPU, CPU, and for now let's work there. It's going to be a little bit slower, but yeah, I guess we don't really have a choice on this. So I want to use ambient occlusion for this, and you can already see the ambient occlusion. So let's play with the distance here. If I turn this something like 100, let's just use 1, and I use a convert power node. Power, just increase this. So we get some nice dark edges like that. Or we can use multiply. We can use power, have this somewhere like that, and maybe add a multiply like there, and then use this to multiply over the color. So we can use multiply for this. I really think Canada is the nicest country, even with the cold. Cheers for Canada. Yeah, I hear a lot about Canada. Yeah, maybe it is. So let's see what else we can do here. Maybe I want to change the colors of this a bit. Let's see if I mix this. Okay, something like that. And we can also use the ambient occlusion we have for this here on here as well. So I'll just copy and paste that here. Just blend it with this, and we can use the multiply. So which country do you think is the best for a graphics for a VFX artist or for a 3D artist? Because I think maybe the US, because that's where most studios are. But do you think otherwise? Do you guys think otherwise? And what field do you think is the best for a VFX artist? Let me also just duplicate this. Let's see. Let me just try get rid of this mirror. This is going to be set the origin to geometry so that I can rotate this much easier. And then we can do some fun stuff here. We can add something like a cube, give it the same material, same modifiers, and we can, I'm going to use, hello CG Wave, how are you doing? Glad to see you back. Just going to grab this. I'm a professional editing. Can do some fun stuff here. I'm going to use the spin tool, kind of have something like this here. Let's see. I can continue spinning this. Yes. Bring this in. Just something fun to add in. Hanging there. Then maybe we can, or better, we can just use a curve object. The problem, these curves don't really have UVs, so it will not give us the wood we want. OMG, at 3D artists outside US, I haven't explored a lot. First 10 days in Blender. What is your country? I mean, from Uganda, maybe that's the country. No, here 3D artists, unless you are working online, there are not a lot of jobs for 3D artists. Maybe just within commercials, but you have to be working with an advertising agent. Otherwise, you're not really going to get a lot of jobs because you can't work directly with companies because they like working with studios instead of in-video people. So going to grab this here so I can extend it a little bit like that. And I think we're going to use the ambient occlusion again here. Just going to copy this and paste it here. Let's see how it looks. You can see it adds in that it darkens the shadow areas a bit. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more pronounced. And if you increase the factor, you can even make it more pronounced. Something like that. That should just be blended with this material here. This is going to be, actually should be connected to this. And you can see it gives us kind of a rich detail, which is amazing. I think the lighting, our sun is a bit too heavy. So what we're going to do is start casting some shadows, because shadows are really your friend when it comes to something like this. Hello CG Waves, how are you? So let's create something like a tree to obscure or to cast a shadow onto this. So I'm going to start with a curve. This is going to be our tree. So, and I can use, let's see, I can use a curve like that. And I want it to cast a really large shadow, heavy shadow. And we can go back to the world settings and make our sun size a bit small so that we have some high contrast shadows. And with this as our tree, I can turn on proportional editing and start scaling parts of it down a bit. Let's first switch to Eevee for a bit, so for real-time preview of this. And Eevee also seems to be broken for some reason. It's just rendering a black space, but The issue is it's a bit slow when you're working with procedural materials, so let's stick to this for a second. So what I'm going to do, instead of using, because right now I'm using object for the bevel, and it's not really giving me the results I want, so I'm just going to add a curve like this, and maybe subdivide it a few times, like that, and hello Sep, give it a displacement modifier. Do we have displacements for curves? We don't have displacement modifiers for curves. That's a pity. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we have displacements for curves, so I'm just going to go in here, turn on proportional editing, and start just making this a little bit random, like this. And I'm going to use that as the bevel object. That will give us something like that. And we can use now the spin tool, or is it tilt? Yeah, tilt tool to rotate this around. So I can go to the last tip, turn on proportional editing, and I can rotate this a little bit like that. And that is good. Now we don't have, it doesn't seem like we have enough segments, so let me first check. Okay, I think we do have. I just have to reduce the number of segments on this and just increase the segments on this, but reduce segments on this. So we have something like that. And if you want more areas to be bent, you just have to come in. So this is how you can make a kind of a tree like this. Hello Kuma, glad to see you back. We can duplicate this around. Let me first turn this to something like this. Can duplicate this around using Alt S. We can scale this down and have this maybe going around this like that. Okay, let me try to compile these shaders and see if we'll be able to. And I want this to use the same material as the wood, so control link materials. See, this is going to be our wooden material, but let's first change it to tree. Call me man, no problem, man, no problem. Call this, make this a bit darker, and these details shouldn't be too pronounced. And I think we can change from UV to object. Hi, thanks for the stream. It's really helpful for beginners. Glad to hear that. And maybe change the rotation a bit. Actually, you don't have to change the rotation, you just have to change the scale direction. And I would prefer to follow the direction of this, but we would have to first apply the curves. Hey Jana, glad to be back. See you back. So you had gone because you were previously here. Okay, so we have this is going to be our tree, and I can say we can make it more detailed. Just have to grab these segments, and we can duplicate this. Go to top mode, rotate this, so we have something another kind of point, and that we can have some good trees. Thank you for subscribing, Train Daddy. Thank you for subscribing. I can also just get this edge, and now we can create some nice looking branches if you want. Turn off wireframe. So you can choose to be as detailed as you want with this. So this is basically our going to be our tree. And we can even use a spin tool here. Now the base has to be a bit wider, so I'm just going to extrude and then make this super wide, extrude and make this super wide. So then we can come back to this, because for some reason this is non-compiling the shaders. Then I can just bring this back, and we can duplicate this and have it maybe somewhere there. But for it, you can see that if we look closely, we have these kind of worn out areas that are being created from this here, this pointness node. Yeah, so that's our tree. Now we can have a few. We can have a few of them. Hanging around. And then now let's start working on kind of having an organic ground surface. Is this a beginner friendly? I'm super new to Blender. I guess it depends on the level of beginner we are talking about here. But since I'm explaining most of the steps, I think it is kind of beginner friendly. So I want to turn on, then I want to paint some uneven grounds here. So I'm going to go to sculpt mode, turn on Dynamo Topo. Thank you, the Real Flow Master, for subscribing. And now I can start adding in some uneven ground, especially for near these areas here around the house, around this. Just using some basic sculpting to make the surface a little bit uneven. Like that. After that, we just need to apply to shade smooth. Hey, thank you for subscribing, Thapa Maga. Really appreciate it. Now we can create some ground. I think I can just use this material as well. It just needs to be modified a little bit to look like ground. The noise has to be like so. It has to be just simple noise. Actually, instead of using waves, actually this kind of ground looks much better than. So I won't alter it. Just need to change the colors a bit. Do you use a pen tablet to sculpt? I do have a pen tablet, but I rarely use it, and I don't really do a lot of sculpting, so that's why. But I think if you're going to do sculpting, you really do need. Yeah, you're going to need one. Every piece starts out lackluster, and unsurprisingly, only once you push through will you get out of the promised land. Yeah, true, very true. Yeah, this. Get it somewhere like there. And then now we just have to start adding in a few details. We can use some trees or vegetation for this. So let's see what else can we do. Maybe add in, let me see if I can add in an extra tree somewhere. I just want to get some nice shadows. Now maybe let's add in some door details. See how that will look. It's going to grab this. We rotate it a little bit. Shift D. Rotate it on the y-axis. Just trying to see where this will take us. Hello, Logjit Game Studio. How are you doing? Wacom Intos is a good starter tablet. I think I have a Wacom one. I bought it maybe 4 years ago, and I've used it about maybe 10 to 5 times. Haven't used it that many times. I'm just going to add in a loop here, add in a loop here. And I can create a door for this. So let's see what else we can do here. Let me first let me get rid of this sun. Yes, have the background set to 0 and work on my own lighting. I think that will greatly improve the scene. Is the Wacom one without the buttons worth buying for a beginner? It depends on how much sculpting you're going to be doing. Will it be good for Photoshop? Well, I haven't used it in a while, so I can't really give you a good review about it. Let's see, I'm trying to improve the lighting a bit here. See. Let me just go to outline and look at all the lights I have and how each one is contributing to the scene. So Shift G type. I just have them in a new collection. I personally use one with buttons for Photoshop. I would recommend with buttons. That's also going to be a little bit expensive, I think, isn't it? So if you are a beginner, I'm not sure how much you want to commit to something very expensive. Let me see. Let's see if we add another kind of door here. Hello, Andrew Sugan. Thank you for subscribing. I love lighting, but I always mess it up. Lighting is, you have to do a lot of experimenting with lighting, and you can see how much experimenting I'm trying to do here. To get things to look really good, I have to be willing to put in the time. Because, yeah, it's... lighting is what is going to kill your render. Let's say it takes quite a while to get it right. Is XP Paint or VX cheaper alternative to Wacom? XP Paint, I'm not sure. I don't think I've used that. My first render in Blender. Okay, let's see what else can we do. So I have that. I think we can add a window here. Here, this is Shift E1. Can add kind of a window somewhere here. It's also going to be a bit stylized. Shift E. First look. Do you not make windows for the house? I'm not sure if you mean for the house. I've just added one. Let's continue detailing this. We can add in some kind of nails in here. I'm just going to use a cylinder. You can use 16 or even 8 segments, because we're going to be using the modifiers for this. Control L, link modifiers, link materials, and then link materials. Control L, link materials, link modifiers. Okay, yeah. Shade smooth. Yes. These are going to be like nails that were nailed in here, and again, since this is stylish, we're going to exaggerate the shapes a bit. I don't think okay, just going to change the bevel angle to be something like 45, and auto smooth, also change this to 45. Blender tutorial, modeling, rigging, and animation. Okay, and we're just going to change the colors for that a bit. Just going to call this metal. Change the colors. So metal would be a little bit bluish and grayish, like that. Grayish. So you can see that's going to be our nails. Maybe we don't need this side to be first. When do you know that your scene is finished? Well, that depends. That depends on my timeline, how long I want to work on the scene. And I never really think that my scenes are finished. There's always room for improvement. I just have to consider the time limits I put on myself. I don't want to work on a project for too long. So I usually limit myself to working on a project working about 2 to 3 hours on a project. If it's not done by that time, I just go work on something else. Which is not a good habit depending on what you're doing, but because I work on Blender mainly for my YouTube channel and creating assets for my CG Trader account for selling online. That time limit works for me because I can work on other things. But if it's a client project, then the client determines if the project is done or not. It's not going to be dependent on you. Would it help to set a lower resolution for the dimensions or if the output to make a render preview faster? So the previewer here is not dependent on the resolution you have here. It's dependent on the samples you set here in the viewport. So I can change this to something like 16. And for some reason my GPU doesn't work, is not working. Okay, so it's loading kernels, and I don't know why it does this a lot. So it wants to first load the kernels, but it was working a few minutes ago. So, and waiting for this can take about 15 minutes to load. So that's why you see I'm switching back to CPU, which is a bit slower. And I guess I have to first close Blender. Let's see if we add a sun. Let's give it maybe 5. Maybe change the angle a bit of the camera. Yes. I think the ambient occlusion for this is a bit too high, so I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. Yeah, if you're trying to reduce the time it takes to render here, you have to reduce the samples, the previous samples. So I want to randomize the color of these tiles. So what I can do is apply the array modifier. So let me just look for that. So this and this. Which is going to mess up our bind. So if I get rid of this for a second. Remove the surface deformer for a second. This is what we get, which we won't need a lot since we have applied. So I want to randomize because the colors right now are too plain for the roof. So what I'm going to do is what I've done is apply the array so that we have only these. We have all the faces, and since I'm using cycles, what I can do is now use, I think it's under input, face maps. Do we have face maps here? Let me see, let's see, input. There is an option to randomize the color of the faces depending on their face maps, and kind of forgetting where to find that. Geometry, layer weight. Let's try geometry, no, the geometry, and see. We have random per island. I think that's yeah, so you can see that we get a random color for every island, and what we can do with that is just multiply that color with this. So multiply, and that should give us a different color for all of these, for each of the faces. That's just helps with some kind of randomization so that everything is known to plane. I think I applied, let me see, get rid of this. These should have been a little bit, if I get rid of this, Control L, it should be a bit on the inside like that. So things are a bit slow for some reason. So let's work on some rocks as some grass, and the grass shouldn't be that difficult. We can just first create a vertex group for our grass. So I'll just go into weight paint and just, let me first go out of rendered view, weight paint. I want weight paint. Just paint where I want the grass to be. So around these trees, maybe just leave a spot for the road. So we can have something like that. Hello, AVJane24us, how are you doing? Yes, let's see, maybe back here we have some random grass spots like that. Now we can go in render view and start working on some grass. So we can add a particle system. It's going to be here. And now we can isolate this for a second now. I don't know. Let me try using Eevee because it's going to be a little bit faster. But the render, the shade I want to use for the grass doesn't really work in Eevee. So actually, this looks not too bad for Eevee. It looks okay in Eevee as well, I guess. Actually, let's first work in Eevee because it's much faster, and then we can go to cycles. I'm also going to duplicate this, rotate 90 degrees. It's going to be for our window here. Just make it a little bit decorated. So my graphics card is which one is it? So where is it? It's 1060 3GB. This is my CPU and this is my memory. It's not a super powerful computer, but I guess it gets the job done, which is what we are interested in most of the time. This is going to be our window. Just make it a little bit decorated. Let me change to local. Just have something like that. Now let's go back to the grass. If you're using cycles, there is an option to just render the grass directly, but I'm just going to create a quick grass blade, maybe a few of these. So this is going to be our grass. Want it to be a little bit bent like that, shade smooth. Now you can create a few variations of this. Maybe this one is a double blade like that. Now we have a few other ones that could be maybe, I don't know, just random blades like that, shade smooth. I'll group them into a grass collection like that. Now we can use them, or we can give them a new material. Just look at this. Give them a new material. Just use, hey, thank you for subscribing, Giancarlo. Really appreciate it. Just give them a color like this. Ctrl L, material, and then we can go to the hair instance, turn on advanced, and then in the render we can choose a collection, and we will use the grass collection we have just created. Now if you look closely, you can see the grass there. So let's apply the scale for this, apply the scale for this, and here we can use a length of 1 meter, and in the velocity normal, let's use 1 as well there. Let's increase the scale until we start to see the grass coming out like that. Now we only want it to be, we don't really need all the 1000 particles. We can use something like 100, and under the vertex group we can choose the group we have just created for the density. You can see it's already looking a little bit good, and then we can go under the where is it, render, no, let's see, under children we can use simple and just increase the display to something like 100, and that is just going to multiply whatever we have here for there, and we can use, just randomize the scale and also randomize the radius a bit, like so. Now if we want to increase, we can just increase this value here. Okay, that's a bit too much, so something like that. And then we can add in some stones here. So I'm just going to use a sphere like this, shade smooth, give it the metal material we had, and for this I'm going to remove this vector value. I think instead of using waves, we're going to just use the noise. Okay, this is supposed to be this. And then we can shape this into stone by using a displacement modifier. Let's create a new texture. I will just use let's try a Voronoi and just bring the scale up, shade smooth. Now we can add another subdivision surface on top of this, so duplicate this, and we can use, for the displacement we can use global coordinates. This means that when I move this, the stones are going to be generated randomly. The shape of the stones are going to change according, and maybe change the scale a bit. Something like that. So we can have a few stones, in different locations. We can have a few stones. Grab this. Maybe can even just duplicate this texture a bit, and for this we can use, we don't have to duplicate the texture, we just have to duplicate, just change this to normal, and we can have some large stones duplicated in different locations. something like that. Hello, Giancarlo, I think that's how you pronounce your name. So we have some stones. Get this. Can also add some stepping stones. Just give them the same modifiers we have for this, Control L link modifiers, except the mirror. And just clip, get the same materials. This shouldn't have, this has to have the mirror. So this is going to be a little bit somewhere there. Just start randomizing these stones. And the shapes a bit. Actually, we don't even have to use. Yo, thank you for subscribing, Bilal. Really appreciate it. You can also just thank you for subscribing, Natu Saito. Really appreciate it. And if you're new here and you're enjoying the stream, be amazing if you did subscribe as well. Bring this up like that. I'm here to learn. Glad to see you. Glad you're joining us. Just duplicate these. Then now we can just edit these stones faster because maybe round off the corners just a bit so that they are not too sharp like that. Why are you creating this out? Is this your personal project? So we just get random things and create them on live stream because you never know who might want to do something like that, and they might be needing. But most of the projects I create here, I also upload them to my Patreon page or my CG Trader account and sell them there. So. Now, to make these trees more interesting, we are going to add some leaves to them, which shouldn't be too difficult. So to add other leaves, we can start with a plane, give it a new material, texture, image texture, and I just look for an image, texture, image texture. I think under plants I have some images there, and I think we can go with let me see what, let me just use this. This is going to be in the base color. If I look at this for a second, I want to scale this like that. Maybe let's get a better leaf that doesn't, let's use this. Just have this pivot point somewhere there. And since we're using EV, I can go to other materials here. And because if you're using transparency, it becomes a bit heavy on the computer. So transparency, calculating the alpha channel is a bit heavy on the computer. So what I'm going to do is just cut out the text here directly, so that we don't have to use any alpha channel. So something like this. And since the leaves are going to be small, small enough that you won't be able to tell. You won't be able to tell the difference. So I'm just going to grab this somewhere like there. So we don't really have to use any alpha mask. And this is also going to render, to enable us to render this a little bit faster. And I can use a rough texture here. Shader, sorry. I can use a math node here, just to get some detail in the roughness. Somewhere like that. And I can have a branch, a small branch. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a branch. I can just use something like this. Give it a hair material, a hair particle system, and we only need something like 50, and the radius can be 1. We turn on advanced, play with the randomness a bit, and then in the render we want to render an object, and that object is going to be our leaf, like this. Like that. And we can have something like this. And let's go back to the rotation here and change. I think I changed the randomizer too much. Okay, so let's bring this back to 0. Just turn on rotation. Just randomize this a bit. So this randomizes the location. This I want to change and to randomize the rotation just a bit. Maybe increase the particles here. So I can scale this. Hello TikTok, from Sri Lanka. How are you? And we can go to the object data and or object properties, and under instancing we can just not show the instancing. And now with this cluster we can have it somewhere on these trees, and we just have to duplicate these a few times on the different branches. Maybe scale it down so it will make it seem like the leaves are actually attached onto the surface, but when they are not really. Just duplicate it again, have it snapped somewhere there. And duplicate this again, scale it in, and we just have to increase the particle count if we want to see more particles. And actually we can scale this down, maybe scale it up, or you can even just create a plane. So Shift D, create a plane, and make and extrude it along this mesh. We just have to give it the same properties, same modifiers of this, so it will have the leaf particle system So just make sure that instancing is turned off. We can even give it a shrink modifier, a shrink wrap onto this. Okay, seems that we can't shrink wrap to meshes, sorry, to curves. So what we can do is just convert this into a mesh, so that we can use this as a shrink wrap object. And we can subdivide this a few times. Just use projection just to project this onto this surface. Now we have to go to the particle system, and I think we need to turn on use modifiers to use this modifier, but doesn't seem like it's working here. This has to be above the particle system for this to wrap on the modifier like that. Now we can also go in here and increase the size of the leaves a bit, so we can have some hanging leaves. Hello, Yadev, how are you doing? You can really turn this into an actual tree with just a few of these. You can see how it looks there. Also select this, just have it kind of we have to change the target here to the house, so that we have it climbing onto like a climbing plant on there. And we can have a few other bushes just lying around in different spots like that. Maybe another one there. Just duplicate this around. Hey, let's go to cycles and see how this is going to look there. So we need to play with the lighting a bit. Maybe get rid of this. Okay. Seems. Let me first bring this back. Turn off the sun. Our stones, the highlights are a bit too harsh, so I can come in, reduce them just a little bit. And also duplicate this light, and because this tree is kind of getting lost within the background, so I want to have it to give it a kind of a rim light around there, so that it kind of stands out a bit. Good morning, good afternoon, hope you are doing well. Hello Kapil Patel, how are you doing? I'm doing great myself. Okay, let me look at this roof because it doesn't really look too good. Let's look at face orientations. Look okay. Okay, good to know you're doing great as well. Let me get rid of this ambient occlusion. Hello, Benjamin Miller. OMG, you are on the live streaks. Yeah, I'm trying to do a live stream every day instead of creating videos. Let me see if we bring back the sun, play with the contrast a bit. Maybe make this a bit dark. It's nice to have live interactions with Blender gods. I don't think I'm a Blender god, man. There are a lot of artists that just are too good out there. Let me see. We could add in more grass, maybe. This is also too bright. Can bring the sky light a bit down as well. Or we can play with the time of the day, so we have like a kind of a, hey Ego, thank you for subscribing. Yeah, something like that. Maybe we need more green, so we can either use a bush or just increase the particle system, the particle count. And the issue with that is that let's see, let's try 500. This is going to double the computation time. Maybe let me also get paint some more grass in the back there, or just add a few of these trees. Yeah, if I get rid of all the lights we have in the scene, I just turn one by one. Let me make this a little bit more kind of a morning time or kind of a nighttime scene. I turn on the inside light on that. I want the scene to have some kind of a blue tint look to it. Maybe some god rays from the door. Okay, let's try that. So for the God rays, we would need a cube like this, just move it in front, somewhere like that. Give it a new material. This would be a volume shader. Just set this to something like 0.1. Let's see how it looks if the entire scene was full of fog. So let's go to, actually I like the fog. The God rays would come out more if let's see. Just increase the anisotropy. Bring in more light. Maybe increase the sun intensity. Adds more mystery to the scene. Yeah, I think, yeah, it also, yeah, makes things look much better. But the problem is that I'm only working with the CPU because my GPU has to first compute these candles, and it takes quite some time to do that. Anyway, this stream has gone on for about 2 hours. I'll give this a quick render and see how things go. So yeah, I'll give this a quick render and then see how things go. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you for being around. I'll see you in the next video on the next live stream, which might be tomorrow.